Let's talk about one principle that can completely shift a person's trajectory financially, professionally, generationally, and internally. It's the own it all principle from my book, The Affluent Negroes 7 Principles for Minority Wealth Creation. Now, before we even get into the practical side, let me redefine what own it all means. Because some people hear that phrase and immediately go to the wrong place. This is not about arrogance. This is not about greed. This is not about stepping on people, exploiting people, or chasing status. Own it all is about stewardship and authority. It's about making a decision that you are no longer going to live at the mercy of systems, opinions, trends, or limitations you didn't choose. It's about taking responsibility and then building assets so your family has options. And let me say this clearly, this principle is culturally important for minorities because our communities have often been trained through history, through experience, through pain, through what we've seen to normalize renting, borrowing, depending, and surviving. But survival is not the finish line. Ownership is. And own it all is the mindset and strategy that moves you from I'm trying to I'm building. So what does own it all actually mean? It means you pursue ownership across 5 categories. Own your identity, own your decisions, own your value, own your assets, and own your narrative. If you can learn how to own those 5 things, you stop being a passenger in your own life and you start becoming a builder. Let's walk through each one. Number 1, own your identity. When I say own your identity, I don't mean perform an identity for social media. I mean decide who you are on purpose. One of the biggest traps in minority communities is identity being shaped by external pressure. Pressure to fit in, pressure to keep it real, pressure to not sound too proper, pressure to not stand out, pressure to not outgrow your environment. But here's the truth. If you don't own your identity, the world will assign you one. And if you allow your identity to be assigned by people who haven't built what you want to build, you will keep living under a ceiling you didn't create. Ownership starts when you decide, I'm not waiting for permission to become the version of me that produces results. And yes, that includes the version of you that reads more, speaks clearer, networks differently, dresses with intention, manages money with maturity, and stops apologizing for growth. Let me make it practical. There's a difference between being culturally connected and being culturally controlled. Being connected means you love your people, your background, your story, your roots. Being controlled means you can't evolve without someone calling you different. Own your identity means you can be proud of where you come from and still expand where you're going. Number 2, own your decisions. Most people think they have a money problem. In reality, many people have a decision problem. And here's why that matters. Wealth is built through decisions repeated over time. So own it all means you stop saying, I don't have a choice. I had to do it. That's just how it is. This is all I know. This is just how we do things. Those are survival phrases. Ownership language sounds like this. I chose this and I'm choosing something better now. I allowed this and I'm changing what I allow. I didn't know then, but I'm learning now. I'm building a new normal. Let's talk about a culturally real example. In many minority households, we were raised to be loyal, sometimes to a fault. Loyal to family, loyal to friends, loyal to the neighborhood, loyal to the people who knew us before. But loyalty without boundaries becomes a tax. And if you don't own your decisions, you will keep paying taxes to other people's immaturity. Own it all means you decide what you fund, emotionally and financially. You decide what you tolerate. You decide what you invest in. You decide what you keep repeating. Because repeating the wrong decisions is how people stay stuck. Number 3, own your value. This one is big. Many talented minorities undercharge, overdeliver, and then wonder why they feel disrespected. They'll say, people don't value me. But the uncomfortable truth is, sometimes you didn't present value with authority. You presented value with apology. Own it all means you stop selling yourself like a commodity. You stop leading with discounts. You stop leading with, I can do anything. You stop leading with, I'm just trying to get started. You stop leading with, I'm not as good as blank. And you start leading with outcomes. You start leading with expertise. You start leading with process. For example, if you're a photographer, you're not taking pictures. You're building a brand identity. If you're a barber, you're not just cutting hair. You're running a business that creates confidence and presence. And that business can become a platform, a product line, a training academy, a franchise. If you do nails, you're not just doing nails. You're building clientele, recurring revenue, referral systems, and potentially a product business. If you're a coach, consultant, or educator, you're not helping people. You're providing frameworks that create measurable change, and frameworks are intellectual property. Owning your value means you stop acting like you're lucky to be chosen. You show up like the solution. And I know what some of you are thinking, but I don't want to seem prideful. There's a difference between pride and confidence. Pride says, I'm better than you. Confidence says, I know what I do and I do it well. Own it all requires confidence. Number 4, own your assets. Now we get to the part most people assume own it all is all about. Ownership of assets. But I need you to see this clearly. If you don't own assets, you'll spend your life paying other people for access. You'll pay rent, you'll pay interest, you'll pay subscriptions, you'll pay fees, you'll pay premiums. And the problem isn't paying. The problem is never converting payment into equity. Own it all means you start asking a better question. How do I convert what I'm already paying into something I can own? Here are culturally real examples. A lot of us grew up seeing people renting for decades, families moving every year or two, money leaving the community and never returning, talented people building someone else's dream. And let me be clear, renting is not a sin. Starting where you are is not a sin. But staying there because you never built a plan, that's the danger. Own it all means you prioritize a path towards ownership. Ownership of a home, ownership of land, ownership of a business, ownership of equity, ownership of trademarks, ownership of content, ownership of your customer list, ownership of your system. Let me say it another way. An elite move is when your talent becomes an asset, not just income, because income stops when you stop. Assets pay you when you sleep. Now, I'm not giving legal or financial advice in this video. I'm giving a principle and a direction. The principle is own more than your labor. If all you own is your ability to work, you are always one injury, one crisis, one downturn away from pressure. But when you own assets, you have stability, leverage, and options. And in minority communities, options are everything. Options are what allow you to help without hurting yourself. Options are what allow you to give without going broke. Options are what allow you to break cycles without becoming bitter. Own it all is the principle that creates options. And number 5, own your narrative. This is the one that gets overlooked. Minority communities have been narrated for. People have told us stories about us. Did you hear me? People have told us stories about us. Who we are, what we can do, what we deserve, what we should expect. And if you don't own your narrative, you'll internalize narratives that were never designed to empower you. Own it all means you get intentional about the story you tell yourself and the story you communicate to the world. Because the marketplace pays for clarity. Your audience pays for clarity. Your clients pay for clarity. Your future pays for clarity. So you start saying, this is who I serve. This is the problem I solve. This is the outcome I produce. This is the standard I operate by. This is what I'm building. Now, let's make this extremely practical with the simple framework you can apply today. I call it the Own It All framework. I want you to think of ownership as a ladder. You don't climb it in one day, but you must climb it intentionally. Here's the ladder. Own your time, own your skills, own your relationships, own your reputation, own your assets. Let's talk through it. Own your time. If you don't control your calendar, you don't control your life. In many minority lifestyles, we're taught to be available for family, available for friends, available for the community. But availability without structure becomes chaos. Owning your time means you stop letting emergencies become your identity. You stop living on reaction. You stop giving your best hours away to nonsense. You start protecting your mornings. You start planning the week. You start having no in your vocabulary without guilt, because time is your first asset. Own your skills. You can't own it all while staying emotionally loyal to being underdeveloped. Own it all means you become the type of person who learns. You read, you train, you practice, you ask questions, you invest in mentorship, and you do it even when nobody applauds you. This is culturally important because some of us were raised to believe educational is optional or not for us, or that it's only school-based. But education is wealth. The moment you upgrade your skill set, you increase your earning power, and your earning power becomes the seed for ownership. Own your relationships. This is where a lot of people sabotage themselves. They keep relationships that cost them their future, not because people are evil, but because those people are comfortable with your old version. Own it all requires relationship intelligence. It means you stop taking advice from people who don't have results. It means you stop telling your biggest plans to people who only have small expectations. It means you build a circle where growth is normal. And yes, you can love people without letting them lead you. Own your reputation. Your reputation is an asset. It determines who trusts you, who refers you, who hires you, who listens to you, who pays you. In minority communities, sometimes reputation gets reduced to street cred or popularity, but premium reputation is built on something deeper: consistency, integrity, execution, results, professionalism. Own it all means you don't just want to be liked. You want to be respected. You want to be known for outcomes. Own your assets is where your reputation and income should eventually flow into ownership, not into image, not into impressing people who aren't building anything, not into trying to look successful, but into equity, into prosperity, into business systems, into IP or intellectual property, into investments and assets. Because at the end of the day, a lifestyle is not wealth. Ownership is wealth. Let's look at some common traps that keep minorities from ownership. Let me address a few of these with love and clarity, not with judgment, but with strategy. Trap 1, the look successful trap. Buying things to feel successful instead of building things to become successful. We all know this pressure: the car pressure, the clothes pressure, the I can't show up looking broke pressure. But own it all means you don't confuse image with impact. Impact always outlives image. Trap 2, the I'll do it later trap. Later becomes never. And you can't build generational anything on procrastination. Trap number 3, the I have to help everyone trap. Let me say this with respect. Some people are drowning because they keep jumping in the water with people who refuse to swim. I'm going to repeat this for the people way in the back. Some people are drowning because they keep jumping in the water with people who refuse to swim. Own it all doesn't eliminate generosity. It disciplines generosity. You can help people without sacrificing your future. Trap number 4, the nobody taught me trap. That may be true, but once you learn, you're responsible. And the fastest way to break cycles is to stop using lack of teaching as a lifetime excuse. Own it all means you become the one who learns and then teaches. Let's look at a practical action plan. These are going to be 7 moves to live the own it all principle out. So you can implement these 7 principles immediately. Move number 1, define what ownership means for you. Write it down. Does it mean a home, a business, a portfolio, a paid off car, land, a brand, a book, a product, a legacy? If you don't define it, you'll drift. Move 2, create an equity budget. Even if it's small, a percentage of every dollar that goes toward ownership, not entertainment, not impulse, not image, equity. Move number 3, start with one asset category. Home ownership pathway, business ownership pathway, content or intellectual property pathway, investment pathway. Pick one first and then build momentum. Then we expand. Move 4, turn your talent into a system. If your income is only based on your time, you're capped. System means process, packages, products, repeatability. This is why so many barbers, stylists, trainers, and creatives hit a ceiling. They stay in labor without converting into systems. Own it all means you systemize what you do. Move 5, protect your credit and your credibility. Credit and credibility are cousins. Pay on time, communicate, keep your word, deliver what you promise, operate clean. That's ownership behavior. Move number 6, build a circle that normalizes ownership. If nobody around you owns anything, ownership feels foreign. It feels strange. Get around people who are building, not just talking, building. Then move number 7, teach it forward. When you learn ownership, you become a transmitter. You change your household vocabulary. You change what your kids see. You change what your community thinks is possible. That is legacy. So let's look at own it all. This is a principle, not a slogan. It's a standard. It's a decision to stop renting your life emotionally, mentally, financially, and relationally. It's the decision to become a builder. And for minorities, this is bigger than personal ambition. This is about breaking cycles. It's about creating stability. It's about creating options. It's about creating examples. So here's my challenge to you. Identify one area you've been renting: time, identity, decisions, value, narrative, or assets, and decide what ownership looks like in that area over the next 90 days. Not someday, 90 days. Write it down, put a number to it, put a date on it, put a plan behind it. Because talk doesn't transfer wealth, ownership does. And when you own it all, not in pride, but in purpose, you don't just change your life, you change what the people connected to you believe is possible. That's the power of the principle. So now I want you to go and build generational wealth by owning it all. If you enjoyed this video or this episode, please comment, like, share, and subscribe to wherever you're listening to this content. I want to remind you that I love you, God loves you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And until the next time I see you or you see me, don't be average, be world renowned. Peace.